Welcome to the opening bell of the NFL Stock Exchange podcast. I'm Trevor Sikkema. That is Connor Rogers. Fresh in the new house, baby. We got the new house feel. It looks like you're kind of,
in the
being
old
held
place?
captive. But
Yes. I logged on and I said to you, I promise I'm not being held hostage. I just have 45 boxes around me, nothing unpacked besides a microphone.
I do love that you put the helmets immediately behind you so that you could be like, no, I'm not in a prison. I'm not being held against my will.
Dude, I had to do, I promised somebody I would do like a media hit with them, and I moved here Friday. And the media hit was Monday, but we actually, of course, right after we moved Friday, we had to go away for a little bit of the weekend. So when I got home from NBC on Monday, I was like, oh my God. I was like, I have to record something. And all I have is white walls behind my desk right now and 40 boxes in this room. So I just put the bookshelf up with the helmet. And I was like,
where's the bookshelf?
I was praying. I was like, you guys just punch in, right? They're like, oh, we take it wide sometimes. I was like, no, like, please. So push comes to shove. I tried something.
Actually, if you zoom in, like if you go TikTok version, you look very professional.
You would think I'm in my old apartment.
Yeah,
because it's a whitish wall with helmets behind it, but this is not the long-term plan.
We start hitting the wide lens, and people start worrying. They start leaving comments.
What would be the sign that you would think I'm actually being held captive? What's the take I say on the podcast? So you're like, oh God, somebody is actually in front of him holding him at gunpoint.
Yeah, if you started getting negative about the Jets at all whatsoever on one of the few years that you could actually get
Enjoy
in
it.
on them, then yeah. So I think that would be a
4-win season incoming.
Gee, that would be a true cry for help. Buddy, we are putting a bow here on the summer scouting series for this episode.
Ride.
We are at the safety position, the final position that we have here for summer scouting. Really excited to kind of wrap this all up and give you our final thoughts on this safety group, which was a lot of fun to get to. Connor and I are going to give you our top 8s, and safeties, very versatile, right? There's a lot of different ways where you could play the safety position. Before, I think a lot of people just talked about it as free safety versus strong safety or box safety. But now, I mean, there's a lot of safeties that in today's league, they'll rotate down to the slot quite a bit. They can be, like pseudo edge defenders. These guys can come all the way down into the box. So a lot of different ways to utilize safeties in today's version of American football. And we're going to talk about a lot of that here as we get into these top 8s. But dude, I've had so much fun with this series. It's one of my favorite ones that we do all year. And this safety class actually gave us a really good one to end on here.
It did, because you nailed it, Trevor. There's just so many types of players, body types, athleticism variants, I think roles and skill sets. So I really enjoyed watching this group because I felt like each player was a little bit of a different experience where, some other positions you could kind of start to get not tedious, but in a groove of, okay, this bucket or this bucket. And with safety, I feel like there's maybe 4 to 5 different buckets. And I went into this process, I knew about 3 or 4 names off the top of my head, and I actually had a couple of surprises that I think are really impressive football players that we're going to talk about today.
All right, let's get right into it because we got 8 guys that we want to cover. And, the way that I rank safeties is I categorize them as either free safeties or strong safeties. But then for this episode, I'll kind of put them in a big bucket and give you just top 8 overall safeties. And so let's do kind of what we've done before, try to be a little bit rapid fire, 8 through 6, and then we'll break down the top 5 a little bit more individually, spend a little bit more time on those guys. Who did you have 8 through 6?
So at 8, I had Rod Moore from Michigan, who was on last summer's safety episode that we did. I know Moore started out the season, missing a couple games and, came back and was obviously a strong defender for a championship defense. 7, Hunter Wohler from Wisconsin, a big safety. I mean, like a legitimate, 6'2", maybe plays around 215.
Yeah.
Really, really smart player, plays in the box, plays in the slot, plays free. He was a fun watch. And then 6 for me was somebody I said on the corner episode I would rank as a safety, and that's Sebastian Castro.
Okay.
Plays the slot for Iowa, but Castro, to me, when you really grind into his role and tape, is whether he's a big nickel defender at the next level or a box safety. I don't think Castro's just going to be this. He's a slot corner. Like, he could play a little slot corner, but when you go into his single coverage reps against the shiftier wide receivers, I don't think that maximizes his skill set. And when you look at him playing downhill, I was blown away by how tough and how smart and how aware he is. Like, I mean, Castro being 6 on my safety list for a guy that's really playing slot corner in college, wildly impressive and a big part of a great defense that I think he'll seamlessly transition to being a strong safety at the NFL level.
Yeah, I already kind of gave my thoughts on Sebastian Castro when we did the corner episode because I break up wide corners and slot corners, and so I had him in that category. But if you just had to say, okay, you've got to put Sebastian Castro in one bucket or the other, general cornerbacks or safeties, I would put him in the safety bucket. Like if there's a position that he's going to play at the NFL level when he is not in the slot, like you mentioned, it's going to be coming from depth. It's going to be somebody who's going to be in probably a 2 safety situation, 2 high safety situation where he's got the freedom to either play a robber roll over the middle or just come downhill, be able to face tight ends or, go up and get running backs if they're taking swing passes out of the backfield, something like that. So I agree with sort of where you positioned him. If it's either corner or safety, I also would put him in the safety category, but tough as nails football player, man. He's going to be a fan favorite. And honestly, he's going to be a coach's favorite too. We're going to get throughout the NFL draft process and you're going to hear, he's a senior, right? He's an upperclassman, isn't he? So he's going to go through the process of either the Shrine Bowl or the Senior Bowl. And I can already tell you, Eric Galko or Jim Nagy, like they're going to be tweeting about this guy. Like they're going to be saying, hey, NFL draft community maybe is not as high as they need to be on this player because he seems like a good football player. So,
it's going to be like recruiting in EA college football. Both the Senior Bowl and the Shrine Game are just going to hit send the house at Sebastian Castro every time. Hard sell. Yeah. What matters to this guy? I got to figure it out. Yeah, I'm
still trying to master the recruiting part of that game because I went through the first dynasty not too long ago because I was doing a lot of the mini games. I was doing a lot of like the play now stuff, whatever. And I actually got into the dynasty and you've got like, 700 hours or something that you can allocate to recruiting. And before the season even started, I've allocated like all of my hours. I didn't realize that like that's all you got.
You
like
pick
you had to
some up
those
throughout the weeks, but it's not enough that it matters.
No, I screwed myself. Although I was like first for like 15 players at the beginning of the season, but once we got down to the top 3s, it was.
Here's a little tip for you: if you hit send the house or something on that, and it worked after a week, you can clear it, get the 50 hours back, and then do something else on the player. This is something that I had to learn the hard way. Yeah. All you out there. It's probably the most useful thing any of you are getting from this podcast today.
Yeah, 100%.
Is that, send the house, get all the info, then go hard sell.
So let's talk about Hunter Wohler as well.
Ooh,
had him 7?
I had him at 7.
Okay. I have him at 9. So he's just outside of my top 8. But yeah.
You're out the blood.
Yeah, correct. Like, shouldn't even be playing the game. Like an
Sikkema
abomination.
Wohler family rivalry. It goes back centuries.
No, it's good.
It's like the Hatfield and McCoys.
This is a good football player. Yeah, it's like the Brackens and the I can't remember. What is
there
it?
You go. Yeah,
the Brackens and the something in House of Dragon. The Sikkemas and the Wohlers. So look, Hunter Wohler, safety from Wisconsin. You mentioned he's got great size to him. 6'1.5", 215 pounds. I mean, that is 77th percentile in height, 79th percentile in weight for the safety position. That's compared to NFL guys. So you absolutely love to see it. This is somebody who I like to note the high school background. And for Wohler, it was a very successful high school background, not just individually, but also as a team. And this may sound like stupid or cliche, but I feel like you feel that in the way he plays. Like he's a total team player. He does all the dirty work. He does whatever you're going to ask him to do. You mentioned how versatile this guy is. Not only did he win Wisconsin's Gatorade Football Player of the Year as a senior, he won 2 state championships. Like he was a part of big time winning programs in high school. So he knows what it's like to be a part of a winning program, what it takes. And I think that he's brought that to the style of play that he has at Wisconsin. So I genuinely think he does a lot of things well. He is a tackling machine. He had a shit ton of tackles in high school, and he had a ton of tackles once he got into the lineup at Wisconsin. So no matter where he is, he's going to be a help in run defense. He's going to be a plus in the run game for you. I also think he's a very calculated player. Doesn't really get burnt too much for being out of position, I should say. The biggest issue with him is just I think his athleticism's probably average at best for the NFL level.
I agree.
And that's probably why I've got him here. But a rock solid football player who I don't know how high he's going to get drafted, but he could be in the NFL for a long, long period of time because of how he approaches the game.
It's spot on. He's somebody that will do the dirty work around the box. He just handles so many roles in this defense. I mean, you look at the snap counts from 2023, 409 in the box, 144 in the slot, 249 at free safety, 29 on the line of scrimmage defensive line, 8 at outside corner. And then he's playing on the punt and field goal teams. This guy's on the field all the time.
Football player, baby.
The physical aspect of it. He's just that hybrid strong safety outside linebacker kind of defensive back that he's all around. At the 13 TFLs last year, PFF logged it as 13 TFLs / no gain stops. Mm-hmm. They're wildly impressive plays. Like you brought up the athleticism. That was number one in the weaknesses for me. I don't think he has high end speed, but he sees things so quickly that it's the equivalent of a player that has really good speed that sees it on a normal level because he has really good awareness and instincts. I thought play development instincts were his best attribute. He understands how the play is developing, what the blocker is trying to do to him, and the right lane and pathway to the ball carrier and the play. I think the physicality and coverage will transition well to covering tight ends at the next level. I'm not putting Wohler in the slot and saying trying to think of a really good like cover CeeDee Lamb, like when they play him in the slot, right? And that's an extreme example. Maybe a lesser example is like Josh Downs. Like he should be covering bigger matchup kind of players.
Right.
So by the way, did you realize like how intelligent he is?
I saw he had GPA in high school above 4.
4.29 GPA in high school, and I think he's always been an academic All-American in college, which maybe he's got some of those Jim Leonard vibes.
Think he's better than me?
Yeah. It's a great reference. It's great. Spot on. I mean, it just all comes together for this guy. And like you said, he's not a first-round athlete, so that's why we're talking about him in this group, but I think he'll be a rock-solid NFL player for a long time, personally.
Yep. I like him as well. I guess I'll just read my 8 through 6 because there's another guy that we're going to talk about here. Akili Arnold, I have at number 8. He was at Oregon State for a while. Now he is at USC for his final year of eligibility. Rod Moore is the next player that I wanted to talk about. I have him at number 7. And then Xavier Nwankpa from Iowa is who I have just outside of my top 5 at number 6. But I did want to touch on Rod Moore here before we went to some of these other guys because you had him at 8, I believe.
Where did you have him?
7 is where I had him.
Okay.
Really talented player. Athleticism is what you love about this guy. I'm not really worried about the injury history, really. Obviously I totally forgot. I was thinking about the early injury that he had last year. I forgot that he had a non-contact injury and we're not even seeing him play this season. So that's a major part of his scouting report that that totally slipped my mind. That is a major part of what we have to talk about here with him. But even when he's on the field, Connor, I worry about how slender the dude is.
It's the number one thing I wrote. 182
pounds. And to be honest with you, there were times when he'd have to take on a blocker where he'd give him a little pop and I'd be like, okay, didn't really expect that from a 182-pound safety.
Right.
So I like it, but there's just only so much that you can do to make up for being 182 pounds, and that is 0th percentile for the safety position. So I wonder if he is one of these guys who might actually end up being a corner in the league instead of a safety, like players who have translated there. And he hasn't played a ton of outside corner, but Mike McKenzie's the first guy that comes to my mind, right? Like former Green Bay Packer, where I think he was drafted as a safety, but he mostly played corner at the NFL level. He was kind of like a bigger, taller, more slender player. And I think Rod Morris got sort of similar athleticism to him. So I wonder if a conversion to corner might be in Rod Moore's future, but it all depends on how he comes back from this ACL injury. It really does.
Yeah, it's, obviously I should have led with that when I read his name, that he's going to miss. They're expected to miss the entire season from the torn ACL and the offseason workouts. But this is somebody that has a couple years of tape right now, or at least the NFL has that much tape on him and knows what they're getting. And you brought up the athleticism, Trevor. I will say, just from pure tape study, I was left wanting a little bit more.
Me too. I thought I was going to be a little higher on him. I really did.
Me too. Coming into this, I thought Moore was going to be top 5 safety for me. I wrote up the first weakness was very slender frame, and it impacts his play strength. He gets wiped out in the box against the run game and screens.
Yeah.
It's just like when a screen blocker gets out in front, it's here's the perfect example. The two guys in front of him that I read off, Wohler and Castro, kill screen blockers. They kill them.
Yeah.
And I didn't see that from Moore, but Moore's athleticism, you look at the 4 interceptions in 2022, when he's roaming in coverage, there's flashes of brilliance, but there's flashes of brilliance, not stretches of brilliance. So yeah, a solid player. He'll be an interesting project for someone to draft and continue his rehab and get him right for his rookie season.
Yeah. So number 8 for me was Akili Arnold. And I wanted to make sure that I brought his name up because I didn't really have any buzz on him before I went into this exercise. And Dalton Wasserman at PFF actually was somebody who I heard his name first when Dalton was giving him some pub. He said he was one of the best coverage safeties in the country. And so I was like, oh, okay, I haven't heard of him before. So I looked him up and I really am. I'm a fan. He's a little bit smaller. He's 6 foot flat, 200 pounds. So that's 34th percentile and 24th percentile. He's a little stiff, changing direction. He's not like the best fluid athlete out there, but there's so much of what he does that it comes from such a high football IQ for the position. So he was originally a 3-star cornerback in 2019. So he's been around college football quite a long time. This is his 6th year. So he's played a lot of football. So that has turned into high football IQ, I think, in a lot of ways. Here's the strengths that I have written for him. Good pre-snap communication, good post-snap recognition, a willing and decently strong tackler despite being a little bit smaller in size. He's got some smooth movements for a slot defender. I mentioned sometimes the change of direction when he's top speed, like that can be a little bit stiff, but when he is playing in the slot, he reverts back to that corner background, and you can see some of those fluid, those quick, short area movements from him. So it helps him be a nice slot defender. And I think that he could play press really confidently. That was also something that I loved from him because the size being a little bit smaller, it probably says, okay, you might have to be a slot defender at the next level. And I get a little bit worried when I say athleticism's sort of an issue for players and then try to put them in the slot because in the slot, like you mentioned CeeDee Lamb will line up in the slot. Like you can't be devoid of athleticism and try to guard CeeDee Lamb. There's just too many good receivers that are playing the slot, but he does so confidently and understands leverages, understands the timing, when to get hands on guys, knows how to manipulate things, knows how to play comfortably in trail technique. So he just does all of these things really, really well. And I thought we saw some good coverage grades last year from him because of it. 81.3 coverage grade in the slot. That was his highest coverage grade. Free safety, it was also 76.1. But he's a little bit of a smaller player. I don't think he's going to be this, like top 50 type of safety, maybe even top 75. We'll see how this year goes. But he plays the position so smart. And it's hard for me to really give up on guys who can manage the space that they're given as a safety as well as Akili Arnold does. So I'm a big fan of his.
Somebody I got to get eyes on after hearing that. I heard what you said in the beginning, like, hey, I didn't hear a ton of buzz about this guy. I didn't hear a ton of buzz about him. Somebody that I will watch throughout the season for sure as we kind of add to the depth of the safety class, which goes to show you the depth of this class looks pretty good when you have, I thought my 8 were really, really strong. And to hear there's people outside of it that can make that jump is exciting.
Yeah, no, it's a good group, and I want to get to my number 6 guy because I think you'll have him in your top 5, Xavier Nwankpa. But before we do that, we had a little bit of appetizer for college football last week. Now it is time for the feast this coming Saturday. We're very, very excited about that one in college football getting kicked off because now we got new tape to watch these guys. It's going to be great. Don't miss any of the action. Jump in at DraftKings Sportsbook this year. Full slate of games is coming Saturday. We've even got the big matchup in Atlanta, number 1, number 16. But there's so many great matchups throughout the day. Number 1 place to bet touchdowns is DraftKings. Currently has the most touchdown markets offered and leads in touchdown futures and season specials as well. Touchdowns can be scored on the ground, through the air, defensive effort. You guys know how it is. And at DraftKings, now you can score big as well. It's the biggest college football season to date. Enjoy the ride all the way through the expanded college football playoffs. You know that we are as well. Plus, all the newbies out there, you guys can get into the college football spirit. A little something extra for you. New DraftKings customers can bet just $5 and get $250 in bonus bets instantly. Now's the time to do it, folks. Score big with DraftKings all college football season long. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use the promo code PFF. That's promo code PFF. if you're a new customer to get $250 in bonus bets when you bet just $5 only on DraftKings. The crown is yours this season. If you got a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, it is 877-8-HOPE-NY, or you can just text HOPE-NY. In Connecticut, help is available for problems with gambling at 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, 21 plus age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gambling resources, visit dkng.co/FTBAL. So, Connor, Xavier Nwankpa is my 6. Is that a good transition into the top 5, or am I going to have to wait a little bit here?
You're a little... I don't know. He's number 3 for me.
Okay, that's not too bad.
No.
I was worried if you were going to have him 1.
Yeah. And then it's
that
like,
was going to be a little bit too big of a gap.
The show's over.
Okay, so you have him at 3. You like him a little bit more than I do. What'd you like about Xavier Nwankpa from Iowa?
Well, I could see how you landed there for him, because this is my number 1 projection guy, right? Like,
okay.
He's the highest player I have on the list without him having solidified it, is what I would say. I'm just looking at the traits that this guy has at 6'2", 215. I believe he's the highest recruit to ever commit to Iowa.
I think so.
Can you confirm? Now, here's the problem with that. Just when we say things like that, recruiting rankings now, there's so many different recruiting, like recognized recruiting rankings and services. But the point is, this guy was a big deal coming out of high school. He was a 5-star recruit. And depending on where you get your recruiting rankings, he's the highest recruit to ever commit to Iowa. So, and I believe he flipped back and forth, like might have flipped to Alabama at one point. Iowa eventually lands him. This was a big deal for Iowa. Yeah. He's a true junior. Like I said, he's 6'2", 215. Sturdy, big build. He's got length. He's explosive and fast when he hits the gas. Mm-hmm. Another guy that plays everywhere. Last year, 342 snaps in the box, 234 in the slot, 233 at free safety. He also plays special teams. I love the way Iowa develops players, by the way. It's just like, yeah, you're going to come here and you're going to play special. You're a 5-star super recruit. And you're also like run down the field on kickoff. It's just, I don't know.
Football, baby. You better love it or get out.
It really is. And they're about that life. And this defense is, they really play as a collective unit. There was a play, Trevor, that I saw of him on tape where Rutgers was, I think it was a quarterback run. It was some kind of run that had Monungai as a lead blocker. And we know how tough Kyle Monungai is. I mean,
yeah.
He is like 30 pounds of muscle and a 10-pound potato sack. He's that kind of jacked. And this dude, Nwankpa, wiped him out, like put him on his ass, where Monungai's feet went up in the air. And I was like, whoa, that is a true
game. I got to watch the Rutgers game.
That is a true sophomore getting after it downhill. Now, once again, there are flashes. I think the number one question I wrote from him, like, can he create takeaways in 2024? Because here's how you go in the first round. We live in a world where linebackers, safeties, and running backs and tight ends traditionally have to do something extraordinary to go in the first round. That's the world we live in right now. Love it or hate it. Nwankpa has special tools. He's a really good football player right now already, going into his true junior year. If he can create turnovers that change the game, then he's a round 1 safety. That's a giant if, but he has so much talent that I loved the player. I loved the player. I think that at minimum, he looks like a day 2 starter, like day 1 starter.
Yeah, I think his floor as a safety is really high, just because, I mean, if nothing else, but because of God-given talent. 6'2", 215 pounds. That's 83rd and 86th percentile for the position. I mean, he is built like a player who will last at the NFL level for this position. And you mentioned the 5-star tag that he got out of high school. That comes from good athleticism as well. I read that he was a track guy as well, had a long jump, participated in a long jump. I'm not sure if he was a sprinter or not. I just found the long jump from him. But he also, he played baseball as well. He played all 3 phases when he was in high school. So, playing all around at Iowa is nothing new to him. Connor, I agree with you completely. The area that really held him back from being a top 5 safety for me is, I don't know why, this might be sort of how he's taught by his coaches. I thought the way that he approached the play is just way too conservative right now. Like he's not nearly as aggressive as I think that his size, his speed, and his strength could allow him to be. He was a safety in every sense of the word. And perhaps, again, that is what Iowa's coaches are telling him. Maybe they are telling him, you roam the back end, nobody gets behind you, nobody gets past you. But that's a different message than saying, hey, we want you to kind of creep over the middle, watch the quarterback's eyes, go get the ball when it's in the air. And he doesn't play like that. I just felt as though his play style was much more conservative than I thought it was going to be for a player who is as athletic as he is. So to me, this is a huge year, because now he's going to be a true junior this year. He wasn't even draft eligible last year. So if in this year he really cranks up his aggressiveness, even if it's just in spots to go after the ball when it's in the air, then all of a sudden this guy can definitely shoot up my rankings and shoot up the draft board. But right now he just plays too conservative. And I wonder, is this how you approach the position? And does it make you uncomfortable if you ramp up that aggression? I don't know. That's the question, or those are the questions that I'm really looking to get answered this year, because I don't know if you read this. Dude, he had 16 interceptions in high school.
That's insanity. And not
16.
Shocking.
So,
all the traits are there. He is long, explosive, smart.
So when I saw that even as just a true sophomore, for as much as he's played, he only has 2 interceptions, I was like, that's a little weird. And then you watch the film and you go, well, you're not really putting yourself in a position to go get those interceptions. And I just wonder if this year will yield more of that. So it's nothing on him, honestly. Again, if this is how they're teaching him how to play, then I think that it will all play out in the end. That's sort of the caveat of summer scouting, right? We scout these guys and we sort of tell you where they are now, but we also have to tell you what could be in their future. And he is somebody who has a much higher ceiling than just being safety 6 for me in this class. But that is how I saw him in his current state and what I'm hoping to see more of him this season.
My working theory on it is he was a young guy playing in a veteran-filled defense that, Jay Higgins and Nick Jackson in the middle, Sebastian Castro, like all these really responsible vets.
Cooper John was in that defense, obviously.
Right. And 8 of the 11 starters from last year, I think, are back. This is a defense that has continuity. You look at this script of how Iowa had to play last year. I mean, just as a reminder, they beat Iowa State 20-13. They beat Purdue 20-14. They beat Wisconsin 15-16. They lose to Minnesota 12-10. They beat Northwestern 10-7. They beat Illinois 15-13. They beat Nebraska 13-10. They are constantly playing, walking on eggshells. That our offense does nothing for us. I guess you can counter and say, well, wouldn't that want to make you more aggressive on defense? I don't think they are coached to do that. I think they are told never break, because we might not score more than 7 points today, or 9 points today, 10 points today. And I think it's hard as a safety to take chances when this is the environment you're in. And I really am rooting for Iowa to be better offensively this year, because I think it'll bring out a different level to this already great defense.
Who you got at 5?
Who do I have at 5? That would be my fellow Laxbro, Dante Trader.
Oh.
Wait, no. Sorry. I'm a dummy. No. Yeah. I already said Sebastian Castro at 6. Yeah. Trader at 5. Trader at 5.
Oh, that's okay. All right. So talk to me about Trader, because I don't have him in my top 5.
Another big projection guy. He is a fascinating case. Maryland safety, 6 feet tall, 190 pounds, super athletic. This is someone that started all 2022 and 2023 at safety for Maryland, while he was also last year an All-American lacrosse player for Maryland.
Yeah. I read that he was the number 3 recruit.
He was top 10 in the country as a lacrosse. Yes, top 10 in the country, which is it's hard to put that into perspective for people unless you've
That's
played
nuts.
lacrosse at a high level while like I wasn't playing football and lacrosse and like figuring out like I can't relate to this, but just thinking about it, the fact that he's doing both at college is not appreciated enough. It is so insane to me that he is an All-American on an elite college program. Maryland is a great college lacrosse program year after year after year. And then he's also the starting safety on the football team. So why I have him at 5 is I think if he commits to football full time,
right,
all his problems are going to be really mitigated. I mean, his problems right now, Trevor, he takes the cheese on fakes. Like play development instincts are so raw. It always feels like he's a step behind.
Yeah.
He's still learning how to balance when to just unload his shoulder into someone versus wrapping up. It's all fundamental aspects of the game. He's so gifted athletically. He plays so fast. He plays with no fear. He could play free. He could play downhill. That if time comes, he commits to football, he's just as good as these other guys already. But he's an All-American lacrosse player at a great lacrosse school, where in the spring, while guys are putting on muscle, trying to get faster, trying to mentally prepare, he's out trying to win a championship in one of the craziest D1 sports in the country.
Yeah, right.
Like in the intensity level of a lacrosse season after a football season at the D1 college level is absurd. Yeah. It is absurd to me. So Trader he's a gem of a prospect because he is the big, like, what's in the box kind of thing. Like this could be something really, really fun and exciting.
Yeah.
But I respect it so much more that he's impacting their lacrosse team too, because I think it's a really unique path.
Him being safety 10 for me going into the year, I think should tell people the potential that this safety class has.
Right. That's a good point.
Because I focused on sort of where he is more than you kind of focused on what he could be when I have him at number 10. Because I agree, like in his current state, you could tell he's a really great all-around athlete. Really great body control, good core strength, fast, fluid, very balanced footwork. I mean, his back pedal is very smooth, and he can change direction very well. He's got those long arms, which you absolutely love, but sometimes like tackling technique, and again, some play action, some misdirection. Okay, like this guy's passing through this zone. Now I'm taking him over, or now I'm leaving it for you. Like those nuances of playing safety aren't there for him. And if you were to take him in his current state and drop him into the NFL, he'd get in a little bit of trouble. So we definitely need to see more for him naturally in that way. But for him to be safety 10 for me, there are plenty of other years when even in his current state, I'd be like, yeah, all right, safety 4, safety 5. Like I'll take this guy to believe in. And I just think that this safety class is pretty deep as we're sitting here going into the preseason. So I didn't have him in my top 8, but I'm actually glad that you got him in the show there one way or another, because the lacrosse background is one that is incredibly interesting. And it makes him quite an interesting prospect, I should say, and somebody who is going to be fun to follow throughout this college football season. I don't think he's playing lacrosse anymore. I think
I was just going to say, let me make it clear. He's made it very evident football is his pathway because he played on their lacrosse team in 2023.
Yes, yeah,
so,
and he didn't his freshman year, which I thought was funny.
I think it's interesting too. Like, is he going to go back one more time in 2020? He's not, obviously. He's going to be getting ready for the NFL draft. Yeah. But I wanted to make that clear that so he didn't have a spring before his last season. Going into this year, he will have what I believe is a full spring football.
Yes,
I should have been very evident about that. We haven't seen him really play like that full commitment yet, where now lacrosse is apparently out of the picture.
Yeah, we got there eventually.
And hey, if he doesn't make it in the, like if things go wrong 2 years, 3 years into the NFL, he'll legitimately go play professional lacrosse. Like
it's always good to have a backup plan.
He's that talented, basically.
We all get to that point in our in our lives where we go where we have a bad day at work
at different stages.
Right, though, what'd you say?
At different stages. Some of us stop being athletes when we're 17, and then some of us get to switch professional sports and when we're adults. Trader's that guy. Crazy.
He is. All right.
Fun
So
one.
number 5 for me, the man who I believe led the country last year in interceptions, Xavier Watts from Notre Dame.
Okay.
Where'd you have Watts?
I had Watts at 9.
Okay. I figured when we got to 5 and he wasn't 5 for you, that he was probably just going to be outside of your top 8.
Yeah, he was right behind Rod Moore, and I'm excited to hear what you have to say about him because I almost put him over Rod Moore. There was part of me that liked him more than Rod Moore, but
I can't quit the dude.
Yeah. That's basically what it came down to.
I watched like 5 games of Xavier Watts, and I was telling myself, like, you don't really like this dude as much as you think. And then I'd see a couple plays, and I was like, yes, you do.
Yeah,
I could not quit Xavier Watts, who is he is a redshirt senior now at Notre Dame. He is a safety. He's got an interesting background. So he's 5'11" and a half, 203 pounds. That's 28th percentile and 35th percentile, but right around 205 for a safety. Like, it's not that big of a deal. I mean, if you go up to, I just have this number right in front of me. If you go up to 208, that's above the 50th percentile. So it's a huge jump just because there's a lot of guys that really sit around 205 at safety. So 203, it's not a big deal. Just go to, like Little Caesars, get a whole hot and ready pizza. You'll be at 205 in no time. It's not a big deal. So he was actually a 4-star wide receiver recruit back in 2020.
That makes sense, by the way.
Appeared in 2 games as a true freshman, and he kind of struggled to get on the field as a wide receiver. And then he transitioned over to the defense side of the football for the next year. They kind of like tried him at linebacker, sort of this like slot linebacker, like a star position type of a linebacker. They call it rover at Notre Dame, or at least they did back in 2021. I don't know if it's changed with the terminology with Marcus Freeman being the head coach there. But then he ended up becoming a safety, and he played safety in 2021 for 11 games. Then he had 4 starts at safety in 2022, and then he played in and started all 13 games last year, won the Bronco Nagurski Award as the best defender in the country while starting at safety for the first time as a full-time starter last year for Notre Dame. He's just, again, I can't quit the guy. I don't. There are times when I will, Connor. He was the most up and down roller coaster of a scouting evaluation that I have. And when I say that, I don't necessarily mean that he was making the greatest play I ever saw and then the worst play I ever saw. It was more of like play by play. I'd say, okay, you're moving well enough to play safety at the NFL level. And then there'd be another play. I'm like, but are you? Like I just like, okay, right. I'd be like, all right,
you're
right there.
Literally that gif of the, like shaking your head and then like, oh no.
Yeah, that was me watching his tape, because there were so many times when he'd be full speed and he'd look a little stiff to change direction. The routes would be, the pursuit angles would be a little bit more rounded. And I was like, all right, that's going to get you in trouble at the NFL level. And then there'd be other times where he'd be in a back pedal or he'd shuffle and he'd mirror a wide receiver and go, okay, that I liked, that part I liked. And then of course you got the 7 interceptions. Obviously the 7 interceptions, some of them were luck, some of them were right place, right time. But then you've got the Caleb Williams over the middle interception. I don't know if you watched that one specifically at USC, where he just he recognizes this play so instantly that Caleb's going to throw this pass over the middle that he beelines it straight. And to be honest with you, it's such a good play. And it's such a good play by Watts. I actually think it might have actually been out of structure of the defensive play that was called. And I don't actually blame Caleb Williams that much for it, because Caleb throws the ball basically where he should, and Watts is where he shouldn't, but it happened to be the exact right play. And you go, all right, because that was one of the best plays that I've seen from a safety this year. And he made it. So I'm going to list off some strengths and weaknesses. This is kind of what I got.
I thought that was his best game, by the way. I watched. I didn't watch all of his games, but that was the best one I watched, where I was like, oh, like this was his standout performance.
I do as well. At times he's got twitchy movement skills. Like there are times when he really can stop and start really well. Good man coverage movement skills from the wide receiver background. He understands how receivers move, and he understands how to mirror them pretty well. So when he's asked to play man coverage, whether it's an off man coverage or close to the line of scrimmage, if he's going up against a tight end, he can do it pretty well. He can handle the threes on a trip side or whatever it is. Tackling is not as bad as the missed tackle rate that he had last year, which was like 18%. I'm like, dude, what are we doing here? But then I'm watching more of the film and I go, okay, yeah, you missed the tackle, but like if you had to make the tackle again, I don't think you're going to miss it again. It's just that you happen to guess a little weird there. Sometimes the movements can feel a little too frenetic with him. He's got the wasted steps, but Connor, obviously there's an internal conflict with me here because
I hear it in your voice.
There are a bunch of pros and cons with Xavier Watts, and it'd be much easier if it was a lot more streamlined one way or the other, but it's not. And I think that encapsulates why a fifth-year redshirt senior did not declare for the draft after winning the Bronco Nagurski Award.
Great point.
I think the NFL probably also sees a lot of good, a lot of bad, and they don't really know what to do with it. So he probably got an NFL Draft Advisory Board grade, and it might have been like an early day 3 grade. But in reality, I think that this player can be a day 2 type of safety. We've just got to see more of the good than the bad this year. We'll see.
That's a perfect summary of it. It's funny how it's always funny to me when we watch the same players that are not tier 1 players, but we see them the same, but we stack them a little bit differently. Watts was intriguing to me, but I agree about the consistency, and we'll see what he could do for his stock this year, because that Notre Dame defense has a lot of NFL talent on it, by the way, this year. It really does.
Yes. Yeah.
Really.
And I think that he's a part of it.
100%. So he ended up at 5 for you, right?
Yep.
Okay, so 4 for me, and I feel like we're going to be really similar on this guy, maybe, is Billy Bowman Jr.
Oh, buddy. Yeah.
4?
No, I got him at 3.
Okay, it counts. Same, close enough. Bowman is really interesting because he's probably the smallest guy in this group. He's 5'10", 191-ish.
I got him at 5'9",
yeah,
195.
Watching on tape, I thought it was like very a dating app 5'10". Listen, we've all been there, folks.
He's gonna be between 5'9" and 5'10 in my opinion.
That's fine. So Billy Bowman, the best way possible, he really is a gnat around the ball.
Yep.
It had some of that vibes of like, I don't think he's the same as Antoine Winfield, but that style where it's, a smaller guy in the back end that's just always around the ball in the run and pass game. He is very quick. When he goes into ball hawk mode, sideline to sideline, you can really see range with this guy, where you could ask him to play single high. You could ask him to do a lot of things on the back end from a coverage perspective. I really like the player's DNA, Trevor. There's an energy he brings to the field that stands out on tape that you kind of know he's trying to raise everybody around him. And it's consistent quarter by quarter. And I thought that it was just very obvious this is a guy that's clearly like a leader on that defense that really loves football and loves the grind of each play.
Yeah.
There's some big weaknesses, though, with Billy Bowman right now. And it's not the number one thing, people are going to ask him, how will his size affect him, if at all? But he missed 22 tackles in 2023. And no matter how you slice it, that's an alarming number. And I think some of it has come to balance issues. I think some of it is his lack of size. He's over urgent at times. It's just, you really almost have to cut that number in half, or else it's going to significantly hurt your draft stock, in my opinion.
I love Billy Bowman. I liked him. I liked him a lot last year, before we got to the draft declaration date, and he'd said that he was going back to Oklahoma. I had him as, I think he was safety 2.
Okay.
Behind Tyler Newman for me.
Wow. Okay.
So, and I think that he was still like around the 50s or 60s in my like overall big board rankings, and Tyler Newman was 28, I think. So it's not like they were like super close, but Bowman is the guy that I liked next from this safety group. I mean, his tape last year is so much fun. He's got legit NFL range. I think that Billy Bowman's got the best range of any safety in this class.
I completely agree. Like pure coverage skills.
Yes.
Roaming. He's the best one right now.
Yep. I think that he can get from the opposite hash all the way to the sideline better than any other safety can in this class. His footwork is cornerback-like in how he backpedals, how he shuffles, how he can mirror different wide receivers if he's asked to play man coverage in the slot. He will come downhill for tackles. Now, it is to be seen how effective he will be once he gets there, but he is a willing run defender. He is urgent to help in run defense, or at least put his body near where it needs to fit the run. And so I think that is at least encouraging, even though the run defense grade of 57.7 is not great and needs to be better this upcoming season. The tackling strength is a consistent issue. He's missing tackles high. I think throughout his career, I think that we have seen that. He gets a little bit overzealous and over-aggressive with his pursuit to the ball, whether the ball is in the air or whether it's in the hands of a ball carrier. But Connor, 9 career interceptions. Like, this dude is a ball hawk. He brings you the best plays of what you would want from a free safety. It's got to be more reliable in run defense. There's no doubt about it. But he gives you the ceiling. And it's, again, that is a player that I want to bet on. Somebody who has that kind of coverage ability. It's what made quitting Kalen Bullock so difficult for me. And eventually we got there, right? It was just like, it was too much to overcome. The tackling just did not get better for him. But I think that Bowman is a more willing tackler. He just needs to get as strong as he can be. There's only so much weight that he's going to be able to put on his frame to be able to play that position the best way that he can. But dude, as a free safety, I think that he is somebody that I want on my football team. He's got the attitude of somebody that I want on my football team, and he's got that mentality for takeaways with that athletic ability. So I love Billy Bowman. He is he's going to be one of my favorite players in college football this upcoming season.
I love it. Yeah, I do agree with you on the coverage side of things. If he just becomes a little bit more reliable tackling, he's going to go in the top 50, I think. Honestly.
Yeah, baby. Let's go. I love it.
So I had Nwankpa at 3.
Yes.
Who did you have at? I know you need to do 4. And then you could even transition to 3 because I already did my third safety.
Right. So I still have to list my number 4 guy. And then we have the top 2, which I think are going to be the same. But before I list my 4th guy, got to shout out a couple of our friends. Got to pay the bills here. Football season, it's finally upon us. Been an interesting offseason, to say the least, no doubt about it. Got the blockbuster trades, got all sorts of trade rumors. By the way, as we were recording this podcast, 49ers agreed to a deal with Brandon Ayuk. So he's staying a San Francisco 49er. You get Kirk Cousins on the Falcons, and then they draft Michael Penix Jr. Little circus going on in Atlanta. All kinds of stuff. Covering the NFL offseason, it is always something that you've got to listen to multiple outlets to be able to cover it the way that you need to. This season, we will definitely be listening to a new podcast called The Offensive Line with Annie Agar. Annie's an NFL insider. You might know her from her Uncomfortable Team Meetings series that we have on social. The Offensive Line with Annie. She just hangs out with NFL stars, celeb super fans throughout the league. And they're going to be hanging out all season long, unpacking the week's lines, odds for all you betting people out there, spreads with her and her usual brand of sharp wit and banner. So this podcast, it's packed with humor. It's must listen if you're trying to keep up with all the news in NFL culture. Watch it on YouTube. Or you can listen on the Wondery app, wherever you guys get your podcasts. And then before we get to my number 4 safety, I do want to say this episode is sponsored by our friends over at BetterHelp. With everything that you got going on in life, it is very easy to let your own self-care get put on the back burner. But guys, it absolutely should not. When you aren't yourself, or when you are your best self, or when you aren't your best self, it is hard to put your best foot forward. And so that's why therapy is a great way to take a little bit of time out for yourself to recharge, recalibrate, all that good stuff. I've said this on this podcast before. I've been doing therapy for about 1.5 years, and it originally started as something that I sort of needed help working with and working through. And now it's basically it's that recalibration and recharge. I go every other week, and it's a really cool way to just learn more about myself, how I tick, and it allows me to put my best foot forward and be the best version of myself, no matter who I'm talking to or what I'm doing, which is a great feeling. It makes me feel confident. Couldn't talk about it highly enough, honestly. If you guys are thinking about starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire and get matched with a licensed therapist, and you can switch therapists at any time with no additional charge. Just like leg day, never skip therapy day with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/NFLSE to get 10% off your first month. That is BetterHelp, HELP.com/NFLSE. Lathan Ransom, did you watch him? Ohio State?
Yeah, I've heard of him. I watched him. I had him at safety 10.
Sad.
It's good class. It really is good class.
Good football player. Now, I'm a little worried about Lathan Ransom. Right?
Oh, he starts off pumping it, boasting, pumping his chest out in the air, and then he goes, "But I'm shaking in my boots."
Coward.
I might have screwed this one up.
So I got him at safety 4, but it's a big health if with him. So he's a redshirt senior going into this season. One, he's got good size, 6 feet tall, 208 pounds. But last year, he got injured, and it was a non-contact Liz Frank tear in his foot. Liz Frank injuries, nothing to play with. It's not great. It can even derail some promising football careers. We have seen that in the past. It's not a kiss of death, but it's something that you got to watch out for. He's healthy now. He's going to start the season, so we're good to go all in theory. But a reason why I like Ransom is because of that athleticism. He's got great size, which I already mentioned, but he pairs that with fluidity, great long speed. The recovery speed is there. How quickly and smoothly he can flip his hips like a corner. This is safety coming downhill in the slot, and I got so much faith in this dude to cover guys in the slot, more so than a lot of other safeties that I watched in this group. I just feel like the combination of athleticism, the tackling is very, it's very reliable. Does not shy away from taking on blocks, takes a lot of pride in doing what exactly he needs to do in the run game. So he's got a good run defense grade, 72.1 last year because of it. I think the range is good because of that athleticism. It's not quite like what it is for Billy Bowman or the guy that's going to be number one that I'm going to talk about a little bit. But to me, there is so much to like about him because he moves like a corner in a lot of ways, except for he's 6 feet tall and over 200 pounds. It just we don't often get defensive backs that are like that. So he's got a little bit more of a slender build, but it's okay because I think that his play style lends itself to that with how well he moves in coverage, how much range that he covers, and the fact that he is still pretty fearless when it comes to run defense. So you're going to want him in space more than you're going to want him near the box just because of the build. And I think he's got good eyes in run defense, but when you play him closer to the line of scrimmage, that is where he can get blocked up a little bit. Some of the guys that just have a little bit more weight on him naturally push him around a little bit more. But at least he's willing. He's in the right spot. He knows how to disengage blocks when guys aren't really overpowering him. But it really, Connor, to me, it comes down to that foot injury. If he comes back, the same version that we saw last year, I'm pretty pumped about that. I think that could be a top 75 type of a player, top 75 type of a safety. So I got him at number 4 for everything that he could bring to the table with his athletic ability.
Yeah, you have to. It's kind of, he was in the similar bucket to me as Rod Moore, that I just loved some of the athleticism and movement, natural movement back there. It's just that you brought up the injury. That's going to be a big thing to watch. Physicality is going to be a big thing to watch. So as you just hear Gracie going nuclear, I apologize to everybody.
Gracie's a big fan of Lathan Ransom.
She's literally enraged with me that Lathan Ransom was not in my top 8. So my apologies.
Yeah, Gracie's on my side. I can hear it. I can hear it in the bar.
She's like, please listen to me. Or she's proving further to everybody that I actually am being held hostage.
Yeah, she's telling everybody out there. She's telling you actually that you've got to be able to figure it out, because if your takes are wrong, Connor, then you can't buy her toys, and that's really what the bark is all about. That's what we're talking about here. So look, Gracie knows ball. That's all I'm trying to say.
And she doesn't like toys. Hey, girl, you want to say hello? No? Okay. Doesn't like toys. 100-pound dog that doesn't like toys. Can you figure out how to entertain a 100-pound Great Pyrenean?
Wait, like not a ball, not a rope, nothing?
I like once in a while I'll throw her a tennis ball and she'll go get it like once or twice.
Wow.
No, nothing.
She's above it. No, I understand.
It's got to be food related or just running. The amount of 40-yard dashes I have done, aching every following day, is that's it. Just no frills. Like, remember when JJ Watt boasted that he was like, I'm working out this offseason, we have no electricity and TVs, and then it turned out being like a super palace. Like, Gracie actually takes that to heart. She's like pure pavement, pure speed, and like literally just raw kibble. So
wide open road, baby.
Yeah,
I love it.
Safety 3 for you.
Safety 4 for me.
No, but who is safety 3 for you?
Billy Bowman.
I forgot.
Yeah,
we went out of order.
We did. Yeah. Ryan, our producer, is just,
cooking,
sweating profusely.
Yeah,
he doesn't know what's coming next.
We are absolutely playing Jenga with the safety.
Yeah, we're throwing a Tim Wakefield knuckleball, and then it's a Paul Schemes heater, and then it's who threw the
I'd fall
Ephus
out of my
pitch?
cleats.
Who threw the Ephus pitch?
I don't
Casey
know.
something. He was with the Rays,
and it goes like 60 miles an hour.
Yeah, I don't even really understand what it is. Somebody explained to me, they're like, oh yeah, it's the Ephus pitch. It's like, how do you just invent a new pitch? What are you talking about?
You could do whatever you want, honestly, when it comes to baseball, but they took out the sticky stuff. All right, so trying to check this one out. Bill Spaceman Lee threw an ephus referred to as the Leafus or the space ball or the moon ball. This is so good. This is so good.
You know, you come for the summer scouting, but you stay for the ephus pitch analysis. You really do.
That's how you get here.
All right, who'd you have it to?
I don't know if you're going to be surprised. I had
no
Malaki.
Way.
I had Malaki Starks at 2.
You have Starks at 2?
I have Starks at 2, and am I the only man in draft media that doesn't have Starks 1?
Probably.
I don't know if I'm being booed off the stage right now, or tomatoes are being thrown at me, or there's somebody out there that's just holding their fist up and yelling, yeah, or like, yeah. Like, I really don't know. I hope so.
They're backing into their parking spaces.
Yeah, no, we don't align with those people. But
yeah,
shout
you
out
do
to you
now. You do
yeah,
now.
I am that guy. I am the backing of Malaki Starks at 2.
Okay, about you. All right, so Malaki Starks, true junior from Georgia. You think he's undraftable. Tell us why.
Yeah, undraftable, 6'1", 205 junior. Believe he was a former 5-star. I know he was a big recruiter.
He was indeed.
Shocking Georgia landed a big recruiter. How did they do it?
Yeah, tough.
3 picks last year, 7 pass breakups, 5 TFLs. An awesome player. Really an awesome player. I think he's going to end up in my top 40 on my big board, maybe even higher, and so is the guy ahead of him, obviously. So the fact 2 safeties. I was looking last year when you brought up the conversation about where Bowman would be for you, and I had forgotten. Not only I didn't have a first-round grade on a safety. I had a second-round grade on Nubin. Mm-hmm. And then I didn't have anyone else graded in the first 2 rounds. I had a couple 3rd-rounders. So this class is a big upgrade. Like, to put it in perspective.
Huge.
So I had Nubin with a 2, Bullard, Hicks, Kinchins, and Bishop with late 3rd-rounders.
Let me look.
If I was throwing grades for summer scouting, I'd have the guy ahead of Starks and Starks, at least with 2nd-round grades, and think they could play their way into the first. Mm-hmm. I'd have Nwankpa with a 2nd-round grade, Bowman with a fringe 2nd or 3rd.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's totally different from last year.
Yeah, I gave Nubin a late 1st, early 2nd-round grade.
Okay.
I gave Kalen Bullock a late 2nd, early 3rd, and then Dadrian Taylor Demerson ended up being safety 3 for me. I gave him a 3rd, and everybody else was a 4th or. Oh no! I did have Jaden Hicks also had a late 2nd, early 3rd. So, but yeah, I'm with you. I would have Malaki Starks, Kevin Winston Jr., Billy Bowman Jr. all above whoever was my safety 2 last year. I'm with you.
It's just, right, exactly. It's just a totally different level of talents. So I want to put that in perspective so it doesn't seem like I'm just nuking Starks, who's a really great player, free safety, in the box, slot corner, special teams, good at everything, literally good at everything. Fluid mover, change of direction skills are phenomenal. Puts clamps on targets going over the middle. Like when a tight end really tries to run over the middle, he's sticky, he's in the hip pocket, he's aggressive at the catch point. He's a really clean tackler when he takes the right pathway to ball carriers. My number one question
good caveat right there.
My number one yeah. I'll tell you why he's not my number 1 safety. He consistently takes questionable angles that pop up on tape. It hurts him at times in the SEC. It would really be a problem in the NFL today, and he can clean this up. But I think it's a way bigger issue than people are acting like he's like the next great safety prospect, and he could be. He's not today because surrendering the big play with bad angles it's just a non-negotiable for a 1st-round safety to me. And I saw it happen quite a bit on tape last year.
That is the really frustrating part about him is the weaknesses. I have 2 little bullet points in his weaknesses. Movement skills can look a tad out of control at times.
Right.
And he can be a little too aggressive in his pursuit angles. And that shows up. And the rest of what he brings to the table, lower weight number, but a well-built safety. Long wingspan for passes broken up. Top speed is very impressive. He has a sprinter background. He ran the 100-meter dash in 10.55 in high school, and he had a long jump of almost 25 feet. Constant pre-snap communicator. Smooth, fluid hips to maximize his range and deep coverage. Sound tackler, like you said, once he gets there. Elite ball skills, somebody who could really play the ball once it is in the air. There is so much about Malaki Starks that is fantastic. He just
Yes.
doesn't take the best paths to the ball. And
Gets burned for it.
I don't know why.
It's not a one-time thing. It's not.
It was more than I thought it was going to be. I have him at safety 1, but it sounds weird saying this, but like I liked him less than I thought I was going to because I had to account for how many plays in which I just didn't think that he read it right, or he misjudged his own speed, he misjudged the ball carrier's speed, whatever it was. And I was kind of surprised because with his best plays, I mean, he could judge things beautifully, but there were more reps than I was expecting to see where he just misjudged how he needed to get to the ball.
Yeah, we can't emphasize this enough. He's a really good player and he's a special athlete.
Yeah, I have a first round grade on him. He's my safety 1.
Exactly. But like that, it's a red flag that he has to clean up or he will not go in the first round, in my opinion. Or it would be a mistake if he did, if that weakness is the same amount of an issue going into the draft. But I think it will improve this year. I really do. Otherwise, I wouldn't have him ranked even this high. Where he's, like I said, he's going to be in the top 40 on my big board. He might be in my top 30.
I have Kevin Byard as the early comp for him.
That's fun.
Because Byard,
they have the same body type.
Pretty similar build. Byard's a little bit thicker than he is, but both dudes, really good ball production, really good ball skills, know where the ball is going to be able to go get takeaways, really good athletes. I think that when I was watching him, I was like, this is pretty Kevin Byard-ish to me. So
yeah, I see that one.
It's the early comp that I'm working with. So he's safety 1 for me. So Kevin Winston Jr. from Penn State, safety 1.
He might be one of my 5 favorite players from summer scouting. And it's not, when I always say favorite players, like there's just something about them you just love. It doesn't mean he'll be a top 5 player on my big board, because for a safety to do that, I don't even know what they would have to do. They'd have to have Inspector Gadget arms and run 4.2 at this point. Well, Kevin Winston Jr., it's weird to say this about a player from Penn State, but might be one of the best kept secrets in the country right now. I don't really know why he's not treated like he's a star.
Not going to lie. Didn't know anything about him before I got into this exercise. And he is a really good football player.
It is wild how good he is. And so all right. So let's just jump right into the player as a whole. So Kevin Winston Jr., he's a safety for Penn State. He's 6'1", 205, same listed as Malaki Starks. He's a team captain. He's one of the best tacklers I've ever evaluated at the safety position for his age. For his age. Like based on his age, where he is now. Not like comparing him to somebody starting in the NFL today, because that's not fair. Basically a underclassman summer scouting safety, because he's a junior, right?
He is a true junior.
He's a true junior.
Yeah.
His tackling as a sophomore is maybe the best I've seen for a safety. He's urgent, smart, aware.
Yeah.
He doesn't miss tackles. He understands how to wrap. He understands how to hit. He understands how to come to you could either come to balance or you can't. He's tremendous at coming to balance. He wants to stick his nose in every single play. And the reason why that meshes so well with him is because he's so unique at coming to balance that he has the urgency to be in every play and he has the balance to be in every play. Some guys don't have the other. So if you're really urgent and want to be in the play, you can overrun the play. But if you know how to come to balance, sometimes you're so worried about breaking down and come to balance, you're too late to the play. I think Winston Jr. is so phenomenal at meshing the two together. And I think he has a complete sixth sense around the line of scrimmage. There was plays I saw him making the run where he literally knew exactly what the offense was going to do. He knew exactly what gap he had to go through. He knew exactly what the run concept was, inside, outside. I think he's really responsible in coverage right now. I want to see him make more plays this year. It's the same conversation as Nwankpa, that if Winston has 4 picks this year where he turns the tides of a game, he's a no-brainer first rounder. No-brainer.
Yeah, but he's got one career interception right now.
You need to do that to be a first-round safety, and that's why I don't have a safety necessarily locked into the first round. But he's really smart in coverage. Like, he doesn't allow big plays, really.
I'm probably going to have Winston Jr. and Malaki Starks in most of my mock drafts that I do.
I'm trying to unpack this, Trevor, and you kind of hinted at this. I don't know if I liked him so much because of the surprise factor or if he's just that good. It's probably both. I guess I heard so much about Starks, and I thought he was really good. Yeah. But I was shocked at the one red flag I'd written down. With Winston Jr., I knew almost nothing about him, and I'm watching the tape, and I'm like, this guy's one of the best defenders in the country on the back end right now. And he's so consistent for his age and athletic and smart that I was just so pleasantly surprised.
Yeah, I mean, he checks a lot of boxes of what you want from PFF grades too, right? Like he plays mostly at free safety or in the slot,
which I love.
And he had a 77.9 coverage grade at free safety, 72.4 grade in the slot, and even in the box it was 69.9, so almost a 70 coverage grade when he was in the box as well. 90.6 run defense grade. That goes to like, he just does not miss tackles. He really is. He's not somebody who's going to let you down in run defense at all, despite coming from depth a lot of times from the free safety spot. He's got one career interception, but his forced incompletion percentage was 20% last year. And that's a much more stable metric. That's 97th percentile for safeties. So
right.
I immediately looked to see if he was on Bruce Feldman's freak list, and he's not. And I'm kind of shocked that he's not. One, because he plays at Penn State, and it feels like every single Penn State player would be. But again, like I'm nobody's talking about this dude.
3-star recruit. Like Penn State gets 5 and 4 stars in their sleep. 3-star recruit. Dad played football at James Madison.
Yep.
Seems like a real casual guy. Likes to swim and ride bikes in his spare time.
I did see that in the bio. I did see that.
It's like this guy showed up and everyone was like, who the hell is this? And why is he so good?
Yeah. This was the initial kind of comp that came to my head, and I fleshed it out, and it actually, like, it does make sense, but I feel bad because it's like a Penn State connection. So people are like, oh, you're just watching the jersey. But like,
I know where you're going.
His play style is Jaquan Brisker.
It's 100%, and he looks like Brisker in pads.
Right.
And just the aesthetic.
But the good part about Brisker is exactly what you said about like coming to balance. Brisker would go full force at you, but he would stay in control so that when he got to the ball carrier, he'd hit you in the mouth. Like he'd be able to lay the shoulder on you. And that's what Kevin Winston Jr. does. I have a first round. So obviously like these grades are there's a lot that has to play out. So they're not solidified at all. But like I have an early preseason first round grade on Malaki Starks. I have a late first, early second on Kevin Winston Jr. So like he's right there for me. Again, like this is somebody who I think that if he gets more takeaways in the passing game, and I would say even if it's not in the form of interceptions, even if it is, once again, the forced incompletion percentage is high, I'm going to bump up his ball skills, and he's probably going to, like, my formula is going to spit out from his film grade. It's going to spit out like a first round grade. So I genuinely think that we could get at least 2 safeties in this class right now that would have been safety 1 in last year's draft.
Yes. They're just more athletic. I loved Newbin. But
I did too.
But Starks and Winston are more athletic players than him.
Yes. And dude, so is Bowman. And like Bowman also.
So is Bowman. So is Nwankpa. It's a 5-star.
Nwankpa. The safety class is good.
It's a good group. It's a good group to close our summer scouting on. I'll tell you that.
Yep. We love you guys. Thank you so much for watching the entire summer scouting series. This is a blast for us. We had more people watch the summer scouting series this year than any year that we have done this, and
by a crazy margin. It's not even close.
Yeah, like sometimes that naturally just comes from getting some more subscribers through draft season. People stick around, but like you guys really have stuck around, and I can't tell you how much that means. It's so cool to not only be able to do this at the depth that we've gone through this particular summer scouting, but also hear the back and forth between you guys, read all the comments, read what you guys are saying, whether you agree or disagree with us, but also like some of you have thrown in some of your scouting reports for players in the comments, your rankings, and that's what we love the most. And so from quarterbacks all the way to safeties, thank you guys so much for getting involved. It has made the summer fly by for me. I hope the same with you, Connor, because this has been so much fun for me to do. Next on the list is completing the big board.
I get like a little, like it's kind of like a kid on Christmas Eve.
What motivated me to get safeties done?
I thought you were going to say to get out of bed.
what motivates me to live? What motivates me to stay alive is the fact that we're recording this obviously on a Thursday. So this is going to come out Thursday evening at some point, maybe Friday morning. I don't know, because we're recording it late. But tomorrow is Friday. Tomorrow, my big project is to completely update the PFF big board with all the summer scouting that we have done through offense and defense. I think I'm going to have like 150, 175 players on there. They're all going to be, I'm going to update that sometime throughout the day on Friday or Friday evening. It's all going to be updated and ready for you guys to look at and reference and for us to adjust throughout the college football season as college football kicks off this weekend. So I'm super excited to get to that. Are you doing a formal big board? We're planning the show on the show. Right now, we are fully planning the show on the show. Are you doing a formal big board, or should we do like the big board episode next week or something? What do you want to do?
I think we'll do the big board episode next week where we each arrive with our top 50s.
Yeah, you want to do top 50s?
And we build the NFL SC board, combining our boards together.
Yes.
Which is, if you ever want to see two mock draft dummies do as much math as they can to figure out how to mesh these, tune in. You won't want to miss it. It's the funniest thing we do. It's an absolute disaster. Yeah, at the end, it's so beautiful. It's
all right. So we'll do that episode.
Yeah. I won't leave my house this weekend.
Okay.
I won't even acknowledge my wife. I have a big board to build.
Wow, wife flex.
Oh, you like that?
Yeah. The wife flex. Guy gets married at the beginning of the summer, and now he's just trying to flex on all of us. Okay, so why don't we do?
She's my fiance again. Whatever.
You got downgraded. You got relegated.
When my girlfriend gets home from work,
you get relegated to fiance. We'll see if you can climb back up next year.
My friend with benefits. We'll see how that one goes. She'll really appreciate that.
That'll go over great. So let's do the big board episode for our early episode next week. And then I don't know if we're going to do the mock draft episode on Thursday.
It's got to be it's got to kick off a week, right?
Yeah, but
mock draft.
Okay, so
wow, this is a tough scene. Welcome to the boardroom, folks. Do we do
the mock draft on Monday and then like the big board on Wednesday?
I don't know. Something feels wrong about that, but
right.
I think we could do the big board and then just do the mock draft later in the week.
All right,
people are going to click on the mock draft.
We're going to do the mock draft that got us out of bed.
Right.
On Wednesday. So we're doing the big board episode for Monday, and then we'll do the mock draft on like Wednesday or Thursday.
Sure.
I'd like to do it Wednesday if we can, but
we'll do it earlier in the week than we normally will do an episode because we know everybody will want to ride that high of the big board. And Thursday night football, God, that's nuts. That's Thursday night football.
Yeah, I got something else crazy for you. You ready for it? Friday night football, baby.
I know. In Brazil, the Eagles, right? Isn't that it's the Peacock game. I'm a company man. Matthew Berry says that on our show all the time, and now I've just stolen it. It's got to be Packers-Eagles, the Friday night game.
Yeah, it's Eagles. It's Eagles. You're right.
What time is that game? No, Brazil's not like in Asia. Boy, that's probably the dumbest thing I've ever said on the podcast. What time is that game?
Is Brazil in Eastern Standard Time?
South of us. I believe they are.
I believe it is, yeah.
And I know there's actually a nice contingent of Brazilian listeners of this show, so I apologize for my absolute moronic statement of thinking your time zone could be like in the Pacific. Anyways, the game's on at 8:15 Eastern.
Yeah, 8:15 a.m. It's on at 8:15 a.m. on Friday.
Your alarms for 3 a.m. Not because the time zone changed. They just feel like playing it then.
So there we go. Thank you guys so much for watching and listening. We really appreciate it. If you stuck around this long, you're true addicts. We love you. Thanks for hanging out with us all summer. We're going to have a lot of really great content for you throughout the season where, we'll do some NFL stuff. Like I saw some people in the comments who were like, hey, I like the draft, but I don't really get into it until draft season, but I love you guys' podcast. Can you do more NFL stuff? We're going to have, we have a mix throughout the season, we'll do obviously some natural NFL coverage. Yeah. We'll cover the rookies plenty, be able to, take our scope around the league, but we do want to keep a lot of what we do here on this show NFL draft centric because we know that that's what you guys come here for, that kind of analysis. And we want to try to be, quite frankly, best podcast in the world at covering the NFL draft.
That's right. So, that's the goal.
That's what that's definitely what we want to do. We appreciate you guys being there for the ride.
You'd have to kill me. I will not stop until this draft this draft podcast is the best at covering the draft in the world.
Yeah, and then the day after that, you won't have to get out of bed.
No,
So-
I'll just be there forever. So that's it. But if it's number one, I will rest.
Yeah, then you can rest. And now I finally rest. It's like Thanos, and now I finally rest. Look upon a great draft universe.
And tell us what you like from the show. Like, some people really like the fixing team series. Some people really like our rookie breakdowns, which we're gonna do all of that no matter what.
Yeah.
But if you really like one thing more than the other, we're doing 2 shows a week now.
Yep.
So there's more room for suggestions and fun stuff. What do we call our show where we would hold up the paper?
No notes?
No notes I have so much fun with no notes.
We might need to do like bonus episodes of no notes.
Yeah, it's good. And we could even let like listeners decide some of the topics via DMs.
Yes, yes. It's going to be, dude, I'm so excited about the season. It's going to be so much fun to watch and scout college football. We've got even more flexibility this year to do all different kinds of shows on this channel, which I'm really excited for. And you guys are just a part of it. As just as much of a part of it as we are. So like Connor said, please let us know what you want to see more of, and we'll try to make it happen because this is a show of the people. I'm Trevor Sikkema. That is Connor Rogers. Thank you guys so much for watching and listening to the NFL Stock Exchange podcast. See you guys next week.